We are in the Historical Museum of Bauxite, Arkansas. This museum tells the story of bauxite and its people and their contribution to victory in the Second World War. In 1941, America was a divided country. We were divided on how to emerge from a deep and devastating depression. We were divided on the possibility of America becoming engaged in the European war that was being waged at the time. The Selective Service Law passed Congress by only one majority vote. We were ill prepared for the struggle for survival that was looming ahead. Then came December the 7th, Pearl Harbor Day. The Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor and literally bombed America into the reality of what was going on in the world. Ill-prepared mentally and militarily, America built and fought against time. The draft boards throughout the country were inundated, deluged, with volunteers wanting to serve in the Army, the Navy, the Marine Corps, and the Air Force. Industry and labor merged to make the tools and to build the sinews of war needed for victory. The American spirit was not dead. The Japanese attack had served to awaken a sleeping giant. And nowhere was this spirit of America more actively aroused than in Bauxite, Arkansas, where the people of Bauxite and Alcor merged and joined as a team to mine the ore, to make the aluminum, to make the planes that were needed for victory in battles on land and sea around the world. This is a story of the people of Bauxite and their contribution to America in its time of need. On May the 27th, 1995, there was a reunion. People from across America coming together, embracing each other, and sharing memories of a time past. And while these people had come together many times before, this reunion was special. It was held on Memorial Day, the day when America honors its Marines, soldiers, sailors who were killed in action. It was held on the 50th anniversary of the end of World War II. These people were veterans of that war, veterans of a different kind, but veterans for sure. These gentle people and their families fought a mighty battle, a battle against time and the elements, and their victory was just as important as the victory at Iwo Jima or on the beaches of Normandy. These are the people of Bauxite, Arkansas. This is their story. In 1942, America had become increasingly involved in the bloodiest, most brutal, most expensive war in history. And that war was a lot closer than many people knew.
In early 40s, when everybody was going to war, my dad was too old to go to war, but Alcoa sent him to South America to work as, to open a machine shop and there. And my mother was to go with him, but not at the same time. She was to go down about a month later. But she never did get to go because there were so many German submarines in the Gulf of Mexico that the company wouldn't allow her to go.
German U-boats had infested the Gulf of Mexico, sinking merchant ships laden with bauxite ore from South America bound for our shore. But fortunately for America, there was another source of bauxite closer to home. Bauxite, Arkansas named after the ore that is found in abundance, the source of aluminum. And aluminum was absolutely vital to the war effort, to make the planes, to support the troops. President Franklin Roosevelt knew this. He knew of the rich bauxite deposits in Arkansas. With Congress, Roosevelt assumed enormous power over private industrial activity. A war production board, the WPB, was created by executive order and given unbridled authority, even the seizure of private property where needed. This ore-rich land was owned by a subsidiary of Aluminum Company of America. They had a modest mining effort in progress. WPB Chairman Donald Nelson had a more aggressive plan. He was quick to reveal this in a formal memorandum to Alcoa.
Domestic bauxite supplies have to be dramatically increased, imports decreased immediately. We request an all-out effort to mine your Arkansas bauxite reserves 3 shifts a day. Donald Nelson, Chairman of the War Production Board.
Alcoa had a different plan. They wanted to ration these reserves and told Nelson just that.
Maintain imports, mine domestic reserves responsibly. We do not have the equipment or manpower to significantly increase bauxite production beyond current levels. Arthur B. Davis, Chairman, Alcoa.
Nelson's response was polite, but unmistakably clear.
The point I emphatically make with you is that your organization shall do everything humanly possible to develop at the earliest possible moment as complete an independence of import bauxite as can be done. The urgency of this cannot be sufficiently stressed.
Knowledge that the industry was facing its greatest challenge was voiced by a member of Alcoa management.
The roar of these machines through the night and the blasting that shook our houses awakened the quiet village of Bauxite in no uncertain way to the fact that a war was on.
Alcoa responded, bought millions of dollars of equipment, brought in thousands of miners. A job made extremely difficult because most able-bodied men were in the service. This once peaceful settlement became almost overnight a bristling and crowded town. Some of those at the reunion remember.
And war production, Ford said, hey, we got to have more production and got to have it fast. We must have air supremacy if we win this war. And it was an all-out effort for all of us.
Oh, people moved in so fast and buildings were built so readily until we had so many children till it was just unbelievable.
The influx of people, there were many, many more people here.
And I guess we stepped up from just probably 300 employees to several thousand.
All kinds of buildings with two-story buildings, and of course just thrown up for that purpose, you know.
I always heard that there were some people who had boarders that stayed. One man slept in the bed in the day, and then someone else moved in and slept at night.
My grandmother's brother-in-law and 2 of their friends who came, so we had people in our house that was sleeping, 24 hours a day.
And along with new equipment and new people came a new authority.
We had people who worked for the government, it was war production, to come in and examine the books, the ore deposits, where they were, how much they were, and to suggest strongly that we strip this, get this ready to mine, get this ready to mine.
They knew who you were, and you knew what was expected of you.
A lot was expected, and a lot was delivered. In the 5 years preceding the war, average annual production of bauxite was just less than 371,000 long tons. The WPB order came in October 1942. In 1943, production was over 6 million long tons, more than 16 times what it had been. This production was vital to produce the more than 100,000 planes which would do battle. That called for hard work, long hours from people who were proud to do the job. The memories of the workers and their families are rich.
And everybody was really working hard at it and willing and ready to work.
Sometimes you go home 11 o'clock. Sometimes it'd be later than that.
16, 17 hours a day.
Well, they knew that the bauxite ore was going to make planes, whatever else that was needed for the war effort.
My first day was, we stand in water about half shoe mouth deep, and that's sun bearing down. And there were several of them went out there the same first day, and several of them burned out by noon. But I happened to make it all day.
It's quite a place during the war. Them old Ukes and Mac George, and first one then another, bawling 24 hours a day, you know. Plant mill running 24 hours a day.
My hand was sore, they was blistered and busted. My leg right across where the shoulder rubbed, it's just like a big old tough bone, you know, and it was all blistered up. I was hurting all over.
It was tough back then.
Tough indeed. These miners fought the war with picks and shovels. Their contribution was incredible. Their impact was almost beyond belief. While mining had occurred in this area for nearly 50 years, more than half of all the bauxite extracted was pulled from the earth in specific compliance with the WPB order.
It meant that there was enough ore stripped during that time to last the company's stripping for several years later. It was hard to find a place to put the dirt.
They were producing so much that we had in this town you could dust, and 15 minutes later you needed to dust again.
Then in late 1943, with production in full and unprecedented swing, with a city built, with millions of Alcor dollars in equipment, with thousands of miners and their families moved in and working, the government had a change of policy. The first word came from an article in the Wall Street Journal.
The War Production Board will curtail bauxite mining to 65% in Saline County, Arkansas, October 6, 1943.
And then came victory. Japan surrendered to the United States, ending World War II. It was a hard-fought victory, and it was celebrated.
We got pans, wooden spoons, anything to make a racket with, and then we took to the street, and I guess there must have been 7 or 8 of us that paraded up and down Maple Street, School Street, and et cetera, Benton Road, and made all the racket we could. We were really excited about it.
Almost as fast as the town was built, it began to fade. And today, except for an educational museum and a school which still serves a large part of Saline County, there is little suggestion of the historical importance. These streets, once densely lined with houses, once filled with the voices of children, are now quiet and idle. A bank is boarded up, its deposits now at zero. A church is a field of trees. A street once lined with homes is now a pasture. Only the foundation of a small movie theater suggests a different time. Birds sing from the trees. Bees tend to wildflowers. Gone is the business and the bustle. Gone are the sore backs and dirty faces of miners. Gone is virtually the whole town. But the scars of war remain, and they are enormous. Iwo Jima today is a beautiful tropical island. Normandy is a beautiful beach. This is Bauxite, Arkansas. From these holes came the materials for war. The dirt and the ore removed so deeply, Mother Earth cannot recover on her own. We are now engaged in a new kind of war, a war of remediation, a battle to restore this ravaged land to its natural state before finally turning it back to the community. It will be a long, arduous process, but it will be done. This is the only honorable recognition of all that happened here. This and the stories of the people.
All of the men worked mighty hard because they, I think the only time they had off was, well, actually they worked around the clock except during the day on Sunday. And everybody in Bauxite, I think, really joined into the effort because not only the men that worked for the company, but all of their wives.
I wish I could do it again. Because it was an effort to help win the war, and we were all war conscious, you know. We wanted to win that war, and we did.
And that's how our town developed. And that's what made me so proud to be from Bauxite, is because no other place in these United States will you ever find a group of people that loved one another like the people from Bauxite. And that's the reason you see all the people come back over here. It's sincere feelings within their heart. They lost something when they lost Bauxite. They lost a part of their lives, and I lost a part of mine.
Let it be remembered and never let it be forgotten. The contribution of the people of Bauxite, Arkansas towards the victory in World War II and their service in freedom's cause.
I was pushing a 2x4 block around outside, had a nail in it. That was my car. Dad came out going to the outhouse. First time he came out alone. Second time he came out with a half-gallon jar. And I knew they had carbide in it. But I never dreamed what he was going to do with it. Unfortunately, the lid was slightly opened on it. You know, when he threw it in there, and of course, you know what carbide does. And that gas fume started coming out. Dad always smoked PAs. He had holes burning all of his shirt and everything. And he made a mistake of tossing that cigarette butt into the hole. And when he did, there's a mushroom cloud went up about 70, 80 feet. I was dodging like this, those 1x12s. I didn't know what in the world had happened. Immediately, Mom run out of there, and Dad staggered out of that cloud. Of course, he didn't have any clothes on, but he wasn't decapitated either. That's when Dad, the first words he could speak was, "Get rid of the corvoid."
Let me tell you a little story on that kite business. Of course, after us kids put up the first kite, here them old men come. And old Sherman Reed and Jink Hogue, they built a big box kite. And one night they decided they'd put that thing up after dark. Well, they tied a carbide light on the tail of that kite. I'm telling you, people seen Sputniks and aliens and everything else. Oh, something like that, but I don't know. I wonder if that didn't, bring the people closer together. But it was a wonderful place.